So it's 5 past, we should get going. So this doesn't go too late. Hey, Sean. All right, so I'll call to order the Sherborn Advisory Committee meeting for Wednesday, May 3rd, 2023. It's 7:05 p.m. And as per usual, we're on Zoom, given all the stuff that the governor signed that said it's okay for us to meet on Zoom. So I will give the agenda a quick read through, and then we'll vote to approve the agenda, or if there are any changes, and then we'll just jump right into stuff. So we'll do the usual liaison reports if anybody has anything there. And then our main issue for tonight is to talk about, discuss, and hopefully vote on reserve fund transfers, and maybe a little bit of discussion about year-end transfers as well. And then we have a set of minutes to approve from the meeting we did around the time of the annual town meeting. And that is it for me. Does anybody have anything to add or change on that agenda? If not, I'd happily entertain a motion to approve the agenda as read.
So moved.
And second.
Second.
So quick roll call then. Peter.
Aye. Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
Steve.
Aye.
Nora.
Aye.
Natalie. I'll take that as you were muted, but I'll take that as a yes. Yep. Okay. And I'm an I as well. So that gets us at 6-0. Okay. Anybody with liaison reports? Anything to bring back? Don't think a whole lot happened since town meeting a week ago. Good town meeting, I thought. Was happy with how that went. Okay. So on reserve fund transfers, the email I sent around set up my understanding of the situation and what we need to do, which is, I think, different than how things have played out in some recent years, where if accounts go into deficit before May 1st, those need to be taken care of. So that's what's on the table for tonight. There will still be, we'll still have the July meeting when we handle year-end transfers and any other reserve fund transfers that need to be done. So this is not in lieu of that. This is this year, this season, in addition to that. And Deb, let me turn it over to you if you want to walk us through things. I can share any of those documents, or if you want to, go ahead and do that, whatever works best.
Yeah, it'll probably be easier for you to share it or whatever, but okay. I do. Yeah. And thank you everybody for coming. And just like Dan said, this is unusual. I can, Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 31 says no department financed by municipal revenue shall incur a liability in excess of the appropriation for such department. And so that's why, unless it's, within the last 2 years, last 2 months of the year. So that's why we have to make these transfers. Normally this doesn't happen. But before we get to the transfers, I just want to kind of give you a rough estimate of an overall picture of where we stand financially. So based on a rough projection, I think we're going to finish the year about with a surplus of about $400,000, assuming the school comes out even. And that's really just a rough estimate based on straight line projections with modifications for a few departments. Obviously things can shift and things are going to higher or lower, but I just wanted to give you a general idea of that. We're, as a whole, with year-to-date numbers, we're in pretty good shape. So with that being said, we do have to make these transfers so that these departments do not have a negative balance prior to May the 1st. And so the first one is town buildings. And as you can see, our current balance is a negative $42,380. And so we're requesting a reserve fund transfer of $50,000. We know that that's not going to cover the end of the year, but it's going to get us out of the deficit. A big portion of this is due to the utilities. We have clerk of the works. Yeah, well, there you go, Dan. This is basically where our budget is, where our actual is, and how we got to the deficit. So you can see $6,400 of it is the clerk of the work stipends. We had thought we'd be in the library and that would end by December, but that's continuing. The town building utilities is, much higher than we had budgeted. And then there has been an excessive amount of, repair and maintenance on a variety of things. Sean probably can speak better to that if you have any questions.
Do you just want to keep going through everything and then we can just open things up for questions?
Okay.
after you
All
lay
right.
everything down?
All right. So, and then the next thing would be roadway improvements. And this is the balance that is due for the Woodland and Goulding road work. That is after all the monies that we received from Chapter 90, a RAP grant, and town meeting article from last year. We are in a deficit of $52,856.82. And that is the same amount of the reserve fund request is the $52,856.82. And then lastly, our general insurance budget is in deficit by $16,412.72. And that basically is because we took on the library insurance and we knew about it last March, but we had already made the budget for fiscal year 23. So when it came in, it wasn't unexpected, but it definitely was not budgeted. So we're requesting a reserve for fund transfer for the $16,412.72. So a total reserve fund request of $119,269.54 out of the reserve fund, where we have $300,000. That will leave us a balance of $180,730.46.
All right, thanks, Deb. So I had my chance to ask questions when I talked with Deb yesterday. So if others have questions, concerns, want to understand more of the pieces, see the official request forms, we can do all of that, whatever people are interested in talking about or seeing or hearing about.
So I just have a question. I'm trying to memorialize this. So I have the reserve fund transfers for town billing, roadway, general insurance, reserve fund transfer. And that's the 180, 730, 46. So that's the complete.
No,
ask.
the
Okay.
ask is the 119,
Okay. gotcha,
269.
Right. Okay.
The
And then
180 is
The 180 will be the balance of the reserve fund after this
right,
request.
Okay. And so then we have an explosion of the town buildings and I'm just looking at the attachments. Town buildings for 42, there it is, 42, and then the sub accounts for that. And also, hold on, bear with me, I gotta jump around the screens here, and then the roadway breakdown. So those are the three items on the attachment that tied to the overall request. How's that for summary?
Yeah,
Excellent.
that works.
Deb, I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
One is, this is the first time that we have done this in my 6 years on advisory. Is that simply because in recent years, none of the departments have run over budget this early in the fiscal year?
I can't say that for certain because I wasn't in this position, but I know by law we can't. So if they were overrun, there should have been a request, but it wasn't done.
Okay.
We've definitely done them during your tenure. Actually, you were the chair. I did it in 2020. I did it in 2019. 2020 with the DPW budget because it was way overspent. One line item, the budget itself going into the tail end of the year wasn't over, but it was gonna be because we way overspent on the consulting. And that, that was somewhat a conscious decision made by the select board with a couple of projects that they asked me to do and fund within the budget. So if you look back.
Yeah, I think I just don't remember that.
Yeah.
I believe you. I'm just my memory.
It was both of those. I think I did in March, so that as we got here,
Okay.
I probably should have, because that you know, as we're getting to this point in the year right now, it made it cleaner, right? I was intentionally trying to clean up, you know, not a mess, but, you know, that deficit so that the budget itself outside of the anomaly would kind of skid in where it should at the tail end. So
Yeah.
we're a
Okay.
little later than I'm sure many people would have preferred, but
No,
the town buildings we haven't done. We've overrun it. But it just ended up with an end of year transfer, but we kind of doubled up on the overrun because of the utilities this year.
I was sort of imagining, again, I don't have the history that others have. I was sort of imagining with this year of high inflation that, you know, town buildings, utilities, and the roadway stuff came in above budget. I didn't find that surprising given what the inflation numbers have looked like.
And I mean, if you go back, actually scroll down a little bit, you think about doing $1 million road project, and you know, right, because the government was throwing money around. I don't know if anyone remembers the RAP funding was that just abruptly came from the state, and it was a 50%, basically another 50% of what the Chapter 90 annual allotment was. So as we were gearing up to do that project, we basically expanded the scope to utilize that money. And then we found some really bad spots of woodland, and anyone that lives in that area, Nora being one of them, remembers how bad it was. And
I can attest to that.
with you know, with a slight overrun, and the overrun could have been much higher. I had estimated a high increase, because remember, we quoted this job right about when the Ukraine war started, so we kind of just had to pin where we thought. I mean, oil is the big driver when you're doing a road project. So I thought we were going to be on budget. 52,000 over isn't really that high for the, considering what we were dealing with at the time.
One other question, Deb, is so essentially we have to cover any overruns prior to May 1st, right? Which means that at this point in time, we should know the exact number that needs to be covered, right? So I noticed that I think for town buildings, for example, the number that needed to be covered was like 42,380 or something like that, but the request is for 50,000. Is there a reason why we couldn't just make the request for the exact number? It's like there's no possibility of it going over that, right? Because from this point on, any overruns can be covered at year-end transfers, right?
Right. It was, you know, kind of arbitrary. At first, we thought we might even project what we were going to do for the next 2 months and try to do a reserve fund for that, just, you know, but then it was like, well, you know, we might as well just cover what we have. The next 2 months are going to be a negative, except when I was preparing this, I just finished warrant 23 and I knew the balance was about $7,000. So we just made it a round number and called it a day. I mean, if you really wanted it to be the 42,380, it can, but we will definitely be, you know, doing a reserve fund request at the end of the year.
Yeah, when was that? What was the date of that last warrant that you mentioned?
The official date is tomorrow. We just wrapped it up today.
Okay.
I guess I would put it up to the rest of the committee whether you're okay with the 50,000 or if you would just rather it be the exact number. My only thought, I mean, at the end of the day, it's sort of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, right? Because the money is going to come out of the reserve fund either now or at the end of the year. But my only thought was trying to preserve as much in the reserve fund as possible in case something happens in the next 2 months, you know, that is unanticipated. I don't know what that would be, but that is the nature of things that are unanticipated, right? I don't know that $8,000 is going to make much of a difference, but you know, there doesn't seem to be any specific reason to make it 50,000 instead of 42,380.
Yeah,
But-
the only reason the other two are specific is because those are final numbers. We know that there's not going to be any more insurance charges. We know that there's not going to be any more charges to the roadway improvements. And like you said, it really, the town buildings at the end of the year is going to come out of the reserve fund, so it really doesn't make a difference.
Right, right. I mean, essentially, it's $8,000 now or $8,000, in early July.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I'd be fine either way. The 50,000 is fine. The 42,000 seems to me fine. I was thinking, given that Deb said that we were likely on current projection to end in surplus, that with 400K or so of surplus, that we're probably not going to get jammed at the end of the year. And so it'll just be the usual year-end transfers, whatever. So it just, as others were saying, it seemed like 6 of one, half a dozen of another. Didn't seem like a big deal to me either way. Either one would be fine with me.
I move to vote for the reserve fund transfers requested.
Could I ask a question first? How does this bode for the current budget we just approved? Like, are we setting ourselves up for a deficit already? Because of, I know utility costs, we increased on the town buildings. Roadway, we put what we thought was enough in there.
And yeah, insurance is higher for next year as well. So I think next year's budget looks really good.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I would just add that given, that inflation is coming down, those kinds of pressures are likely to ease. But Natalie made a motion, so we should see if there's a second on Natalie's motion.
Second.
And then any discussion on that. So this would be for the requested amount. So on the issue Steve was talking about, that would be the 50K as Natalie moved. And I should have mentioned this before. I'll just mention that in addition to whatever we do, the select board is going to pick it up tomorrow night and they need to approve it as well before it actually happens. Any other discussion? Steve, seems like you're okay with the 50.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah, okay. Seeing no discussion, I think we should go ahead and vote. So let me do a roll call. Peter,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Nora,
Aye.
Natalie,
Aye.
and I am I as well. So that's 6-0 supporting the reserve fund transfers as requested. I have the documents from Deb, which are just the one-page official requests that have these numbers and a couple other background numbers. I will either sign those electronically and ship them over to Deb, or I'll run over to town hall in the morning and sign them. So that gets done before the select board meeting tomorrow night. So they'll know that that's where we came down. Okay. So
Thank you all.
yeah, thanks, Sean.
Thanks, Sean.
And thanks, Deb, especially appreciate your beaming in from Ohio to with us tonight. Okay, so let me kill that share. Close a few documents here. And I'm gonna go to minutes unless somebody has some other follow-up here. Give me just a second to get those up. This should be pretty easy, I hope. Okay, so minutes, I will just, I just wrote these up since last week. It was pretty short, pretty easy. I will scroll through and please jump in with any corrections, suggestions, amendments, and so on. And Steve, I assume for these minutes, I can't remember from last year, you might, that we just don't have to say anything about what happened at town meeting. It's just, we had a town meeting and that's all that needs to go in the minutes.
Correct.
Okay, good.
I move to approve the minutes.
All right, is
Second.
there, perfect. All right, quick roll call. Peter,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Nora,
Aye.
Natalie. Natalie? Natalie, are you there?
Aye.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, just trying to, do everything according to the rules. So that is all I have. I think our next meeting, unless something unexpected comes up, would be sometime in the first half of July to approve year-end transfers, any remaining reserve fund transfers. Steve, am I missing anything we're gonna have to do before we wrap up?
Hope not.
Okay, good. Hope not either. Yeah, you'll
I
be,
move-
I'll be on the select board at that meeting.
it's not gonna be your problem anymore. All
I
right,
move to adjourn.
thanks, Natalie. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, quick roll call. Peter,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Nora,
Aye.
Natalie,
Aye.
and I am I as well. We are adjourned at 7:26. Thanks very much.
Thank you all
Thank
very
you.
much.
All
All
right.
right, good night.
See ya. Bye-bye.